I think I want to start by saying, as a little introduction, I'm not sure why we still are having this conversation, truthfully. It's clear, diversity is good for business. And we also know that if we get this right, if we reach gender equality, we have the ability to add over $12 trillion to the global GDP by 2025. Gender equality is not a female issue, it is a social and economic issue. So just starting out of the gate, up for conversation, how do we feel about even talking about the future as female?
I'm not frightened of it, if that's what you mean. I'm quite happy to embrace the idea that equality on occasions will mean that women are predominant in a whole range of areas of life. Men have got used to doing that. We're going to have to used to not being predominant. One of my sons was at a comprehensive school in Sheffield and didn't really know what his future was going to be until they introduced him to what was called the Formula One Challenge. And suddenly his life was transformed. And I think we need to look at how that can work for young women who are not quite sure what they want and they're being pushed into traditional areas, and we've got to push them out.
I think that starts from actually, as David was saying about the education, where we start seeing children from a very young age being shown to play with different toys, and you think that that doesn't happen. It absolutely does. You walk down the aisles of Toys R Us today, and you will see an aisle of dolls and pink, and you will see an aisle of blue and toys more relative to engineering or building things or cars.
And I think also when boys make mistakes or they're naughty, there's this sort of concept of, oh, boys will be boys, they'll grow out of it. Whereas I think girls are quite often encouraged to be these sort of perfect, get things right individuals, which is something that just doesn't sit well with an engineering mindset.
Girls' schools, by default, produce more engineers, more scientists, because there is this inherent element of can't do, not sure, doubt. And we need to be encouraging almost parents to take one step further and saying, let's not gender specify, be it toys, but also encourage that sense of have a go, try.
I brought a lot of young girls in STEM to make artificial limbs, prosthetics for women. And at that time, a Nobel laureate came out with a statement that women and men should not work in labs together because they were #distractingly sexy. And, so I got all the girls to stand in line, and I took all of our t-shirts and we took pens, not very sophisticated, and we wrote #distractingly smart. And we just changed the conversation.
I think that culturally it is more acceptable to have working from home days. We're always online, we have our phones with us all the time. But I think the real shift is more about having conversations around why it's beneficial to have flexible working, why it's beneficial to have shared parental leave.
Tideway here in London, a very big civil engineering project, have actually got conversion programs to specifically attract women in a way that wouldn't have been the case before. It's always happened with law. People take a degree in one area and then they do a conversion, it's called a DGL at the moment, before they can qualify as a solicitor. Why can't we put resource into that so that we can see some real movement, giving bursaries for women to be able to change careers, change professions in midstream?
And I'd go one step further and say that there has to be also conversions from other sectors, but conversion within engineering as well, so moving from manufacturing to construction to tech to whatever. Knowing what the underlying culture is, you get to a certain point, and we have got a lot of analysis on this, where women will sometimes compromise having children, their families, or whatever else, and then find that there's a glass ceiling. But what they're not finding is a means of getting the informal conversations going, getting people to have who are their allies, who are their supporters, where they need to go, and actually networking outside of their work environment to influence how they can progress, or consciously saying, let me move. I think men are more ballsy per se and say, I'm not getting it, I'm going to move, I'm going to have a go. And I think women are a little bit more cautious in taking some of those bold steps. Maybe that's what we need to do a little bit more of, in saying, okay, I've had my time here, but the problem is when women do, they're branded alpha male or they're branded, and those are negative stereotypes.
How many of you men have ever been told you're too bossy? No one. How many women in this audience have been told they're too bossy? Raise your hand high. Okay, so Sheryl Sandberg says that you're not too bossy, it's called executive presence. And Beyonce says, I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. So I think that when we talk about, Benita, you know, the to this and to that, and, you know, there are big challenges, especially in middle management, where, you know, women do try to act like men because they want to fit into the boys' club, you know, well documented.
And Shelley, that's about building confidence. Confidence isn't the same thing as aggression. And the more confident that you are, the less aggressive and the more successful you are in actually demonstrating in practice leadership skills.